From Capitol Hill.
This is big.
Yeah. Republican congressman from Wisconsin and chairman of the House Budget Committee,
So
Representative
important. Did you
Paul
say chairman?
I did.
He's so important.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if I may ask you, didn't you hear, Jay Connie? This is a long process.
Long process.
You have to be patient.
Look, I don't even know what to say. Let me just quote the Washington Post. The president punted. He ducked from his responsibilities. Your budget reflects your priorities for the country for now and the next 10 years. His priorities, apparently, from his budget is $1.6 trillion in new tax increases, $13 trillion in more debt, and not even addressing the drivers of our debt. The problem is, Mika, is deficit and debt reduction translates into job creation and prosperity, because if you let those things get out of control, it's going to tank our economy and compromise the very entitlements that are the big drivers of our debt that people are counting on. So where the president has fallen on leadership, we intend to fill that gap.
Okay.
And
Now, you say we, Paul.
Well, yeah.
Actually, as far as leaders go, we have noted, and we note it every day, as you may be aware, who's telling the truth on this issue and who's not. You've come out and you've talked very forcefully the past few days, again, about what needs to be done to fix this. McCarthy has done the same thing, the majority whip. Freshman yesterday took a courageous vote. Where's the rest of the leadership? When are they going to say, we've got to address Social Security now, we've got to address Medicare now, we've got to address Medicaid now, we've got to look at Pentagon cuts now?
I put a statement out with Jeb Henschling, Conference Chair, John Boehner, Speaker, Eric Cantor, Majority Leader, basically saying that we will, in our budget, and as you know, Joe, the process works, our budget comes out in spring, we will address the drivers of our debt, which are the entitlement programs.
Wow.
We need to do entitlement reform if we're going to prevent this country from going bankrupt, if we're going to save the very entitlements that people are counting on and get this economy back on track. I mean, look, if we keep going down this path of deficit and debt ruin, that compromises jobs today and these entitlement programs tomorrow. It's just irresponsible to go out there and pretend there's nothing wrong. I mean, I heard your last segment. Your math is a little off. You can't balance the budget by just getting rid of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. If you get rid of CPB and foreign aid, then you can balance the budget. You know, that's what people say around here.
Is that not unbelievable?
Yeah.
And also, Paul, they talk about, oh, we're tough. We're going to cut heating assistance for poor people because we know it's poor people that are driving the deficit. It's like, are you even serious? It's depressing, Mike Barnacle, but listen, we've been tough on Republicans in the past and Democrats in the past. The Republican leadership in the House is going there on the drivers.
You know, Congressman, one of the loudest howls in the land, we heard all of it last fall when the Bowles-Simpson Deficit Committee released their report, and everybody was screaming about it. The Speaker of the House then, Nancy Pelosi, complaining that the retirement age would be raised to 68 in 2065. How much of that Deficit Commission report do you adhere to, do you applaud, and are you willing to go forward with?
So first of all, the president didn't put any of their major recommendations in. It was his deficit commission stacked with his people from his party. I plan on putting lots of their recommendations in here. I can't tell you what all is going to be in there because we haven't written our budget yet. That comes out in April. But I think that it was a very serious effort. Alice Rivlin and I added some ideas to the table, which were not finally included. But I think we've got to include some of their ideas. I wrote all the budget enforcement mechanisms in the commission report. Those I really am a big fan of. I mean, the president's discretionary spending is $353 billion above the commission's recommendations. He walked away from every other serious recommendation from the commission. We're not going to walk away from all their serious recommendations. We want to look at them and take on them and then add to the pile of reforms that are necessary to address these drivers of our debt. Look, you got to deal with this deficit and debt now while we can do it on our own terms instead of having the credit market force us to do it in very painful, austere ways. If we want to get this economy growing and create jobs, you got to get this situation under control, and that's what we intend on doing.
Congressman, it's Willie Geist. Can you explain to people who don't live in Washington why, if we know that these are the problems, Medicare, Medicaid, and we've known this for years, why no one does anything about it? If we've identified the problem for so long, because from the outside, it looks like politicians are worried about their jobs. They're worried more about the job than the country. Is that the bottom line here? That's why they know the problem and they won't do anything about it.
Yes, Willie. I think that I live in Janesville, Wisconsin. I don't live here in Washington. And, you know, I've been running on these reforms for years. You know, I represent a district that went to Dukakis, Clinton, Gore, and Obama. So I don't come from a big Republican area, basically a 50-50 area. And look, people
Well, hold a second, Paul. Can you say that again? Because, of course, people that don't know you well, you've just, I mean, I've known you since, I think you were 12.
But the guy in the Superman underwear thinks that he's the Anthony Weiner.
He thinks he's Anthony Weiner, exactly.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does, unfortunately. But for people who don't know you, they're trying to paint you as this right-wing nut from this right-wing district. Explain again who wins presidential races in your district.
Look, Obama won my district. You know, we beat John Kerry because nobody could relate to him. But every other top of the ticket went Democrat, except for you know, Reagan in '84, I think. So, look, I come from the middle of America, politically speaking. My district, according to Cook, is the 218th seat of 435 from a right-left spectrum. And in making all of this is people want to be talked to like adults. They don't want to be talked to like children. And the problem up here is politicians are worried they're going to get all these negative ads run against them, because if you put any entitlement reforms, any risk out there, your opponents are going to use it as a political weapon against you. The talk up here right now is the reason President Obama, and I don't know why he didn't put any reforms in his budget, but the talk up here is he's playing rope-a-dope with us, that he's going to viciously attack us if we put these reforms out and use it, you know, in the 2012 election. You know, maybe, I don't know, I don't care. We have a problem we've got to fix. And if there's no leadership coming from the White House to address these situations, then it's got to come from somewhere. And we are determined to fix this problem before it gets out of our control.
Pat Buchanan.
Pat Buchanan. Yeah.
Let's talk about the immediate problem, Congressman. You got a $1.65 trillion deficit this year ending October 1. You fellas and the Tea Party folks are going to cut $60 billion out of it if you can. That's about 4% of the deficit. Right. How much of that 4% are you going to be able to get through the House and then through the Senate and then get the president to approve?
That's the magic question, Pat. I don't know the answer to that. We have the CR, and then we have the debt ceiling. So we think that we have some opportunities, because we have to have must-pass legislation that's got to be negotiated with the president and the Democrats in the Senate. We see these as opportunities to cut spending and get a down payment on the deficit. As you know, we're talking about a narrow slice of the federal pie, budgetary-wise, when we're talking about discretionary spending. The budget deals with all of it, like the entitlements. That's what we do in the spring. Right now, we want a down payment on spending cuts and deficit reduction. And I don't know what we're going to get at the end of the day. And I don't know if the president is trying to keep these really high elevated spending levels. I mean, over the last 2 years, Pat, he increased base domestic discretionary spending by 24%, 84% when you add the stimulus. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep giving government agencies double and triple digit increases. We want to take some of this back. We think the American people agree with this, and we're hoping our friends on the other side of the aisle will ultimately agree with us as we negate these packages.